With Hugtto entering into its second half of story arcs, it does feel like focus has shifted more onto Cryasu than anything, which isn't a bad thing. They have been building up towards it all season, but at the same time, during this transition, it does feel like we've lost a few things along the way. Now, don't get me wrong, I'm still enjoying the series overall, but with the show's focus switching more onto the looming threat of Cryasu, it does feel like actual character development for our main heroines has kind of taken a back seat. The fact that we have to celebrate Saya finally getting another solo episode isn't a good sign. Now, of course, I could be wrong, and we might get a better balance of character-focused and/or plot-relevant episodes near the series' endgame, only time will tell. But until that time, at least we have the talent of the Kamikita Futago to fall back on. Ah yes, the mangaka sisters who are pretty much the young bucks of the Precure fandom in that while they are insanely talented, they're also a couple of the biggest dorks on the planet. No offense to either pair of siblings, by the way. Seriously, that match with the Golden Lovers was awesome. But yeah, it's hard to find a pair of Precure fans as dedicated as these two. They really get into the characters and their stories to the point that you can argue they understand them better than the original creators. The last time we saw them on this channel, they managed to develop the highly underdeveloped Kira team in ways that the source material couldn't do in 49 episodes. So if they were able to do that with a subpar season like Kira, what could they do with a fairly good one? Well, let's take a look at the first volume of the Hugtto Precure manga and see if they can super kick their way into another hit. Oh wait, I'm thinking of the wrong pair of siblings again, aren't I? The cover of this manga is fairly standard, just a group shot of our main heroines, though it does feel a little bit crowded with all 5 members sort of crammed in there. I don't mind Hana taking up the center, but I do think she's a bit too big, and for a series with such outlandish hair designs, you kind of need to give them all their own space, otherwise you're gonna cut them off like poor Emiru here, and her one pigtail. Speaking of which, what's with the hand gestures on the Six Rangers? Emiru's just sticking out her index finger for no reason, while Ruru is trying to perform Tian's tri-beam. I mean, I get crossing your fingers like that is supposed to look dainty, but usually don't they hold it up more towards the torso? Otherwise, it just looks like you're cracking your knuckles. Excuse me a minute. The manga opens up with a basic introduction to the series, pretty much giving us a full recap of the events of the first episode of the anime. Afterwards, we cut over to the original trio with Hana admiring her teammates and how mature they were compared to her. Yeah, I bet you kind of forgot that Hana had a bit of a Napoleon complex, even though, much like the actual Napoleon, she wasn't that short for someone of her age. Regardless, she still believed that everyone was treating her like a child, so she decided to make herself look more mature. With her new ensemble put together, she wanted to show it off to her friends at a tea party they had set up beforehand. I'm guessing she also bought some new clothes from Harry, who wished her luck on her little adventure, while he took Kagutan for a walk through the woods. At the tea party, she showed off her new adult persona to her friends. Hana, 3 words. Less is more. Hoping to add to her new mature look, she tried ordering a more adult beverage, espresso. And cue obvious spit take. Though to be fair, that's my general reaction to anything from Starbucks. And when she tried to go to the bathroom to wash out the nasty taste of the overrated caffeine drink, she tripped on her own high heels, knocking down several patrons, waiters, and anti-spirals?
What? We can enjoy a good cup of joe every so often, too. You got any cream on you?
With her grown-up debut plan proving to be a total bust, Hana tells her friends how much trouble and effort she went through just to make it this far. In response, Saya and Homare tried to comfort her, but couldn't completely sympathize with her either. And really, can you blame them? More importantly, a sudden rainstorm sends Hana into a panic when she realized Harry and Hugtto still hadn't gotten back from their walk through the woods. Fearing that they were going to get caught in the storm, she tried running into the woods, but didn't make it far before her tight skirt and high heels grounded her. Realizing that her frivolous attempts at being more mature were only getting in her way, Hana quickly broke off her heels and ripped her skirt, and once again ran off looking for Harry and Hugtto. She eventually found the two, with Harry having reverted back to his fairy form due to a lack of energy needed to maintain his human form. While cradling the young infant in her fancy coat, Hana realized how truly trivial her pursuits for adulthood were, especially if they meant ignoring the small developing life that truly mattered. With that, the chapter ends with Saya and Homare congratulating their friend and Hana doing a victory jump right into a puddle. And wow, she must have jumped higher than Ichika in order to produce enough force to make a splash big enough to cover both herself and Harry. Following this, we get a Saya chapter. Drink it in, guys. It's gonna be a while before we get another one of these in the anime. Wanting to strengthen the bonds with her team, Saya led them up to a secluded spot in the hills to spend time together. Though she kind of forgot her objective after spying an unusual breed of ladybug and busted out her laptop and other gadgets to document it. Oh yeah, kind of forgot Saya was a tech junkie. Though here, she claims it's because she's fascinated by things she's unfamiliar with, which would explain that drill scene from episode 6. I personally never question it because I think drills are universally awesome, but I guess this works as an explanation for others. And in a cute little bit, Saya is embarrassed that she showed off her geeky side to her friends and admitted that she wanted to be more like them, but Hana assured her that a love for tech is a wonderful trait for a girl to have. Girl, you are officially my spirit animal. While looking for a souvenir to take back with them as a memento of their friendship, they stumbled upon a clover that, when held up to the light, reflected their colors. Okay, not exactly sure how that works. Does it have a unique pigment, or did the fresh team pass by on their way to a dance contest?
The answer is don't think about it.
Well, in any case, Saya was going to take it home with her to laminate it and preserve their new symbol of their friendship. Homare and Hana left to get refreshments, while Saya admired the clover. However, a sudden gust of wind blew it right out of her hands and into the beak of a random bird. Harry suggested they just give up on the clover, but Saya busted out Google-sensei to look up the bird and its habitat. Eventually, she found the bird who had discarded the clover on top of a tall rock formation. Jeez, why does Breath of the Wild have to give you such difficult fetch quests at the beginning of the game? Luckily, Saya had the support of her friends who had gotten back from the store, and together they managed to retrieve the clover, truly making it a symbol of their friendship. The chapter ending with them having a little toast to it. Next up on the docket is obviously Homare. The manga pretty much outlines her whole figure skating backstory, I'm guessing for readers unfamiliar with the anime. And again, while this is an aspect of Homare's character that the anime hasn't forgotten, it still has been severely underplayed in recent episodes, so it's nice to see it here. Though apparently trying to recapture her skating prowess while Moonlight is a superheroine wasn't doing wonders for her stamina. Still, at least she did get a little reprieve with Hana trying to learn figure skating, and her future shipmate trying to show off, and failing. You see, this is what happens when you don't have Saya Yamamoto directing for you. Later, when trying to get pointers from her, Hana asked what was the most difficult kind of jump to pull off. Homare answered with the jump after a failed jump.
Yikes. Well, good luck with all that.
Thankfully, Hana broke the tension by comparing it with her botched up haircut, which apparently she tried to pull a second time, only to end up with the exact same results. Hana, between you and Olivier, you really need to learn how to quit while you're still ahead. Though Homare still ended up recalling the days after her literal fall from grace and how everyone around her tried to be polite, ironically only making her feel more uncomfortable since it was obvious they were just pitying her. Because of this, she wasn't even sure if she really wanted to return to the ice. That is until she met her current group of friends. Speaking of which, Homare asked Hana why exactly she took a sudden interest in figure skating, to which Hana said that she simply wanted to better understand and appreciate the sport her friend was into, so that she could cheer Homare on more sincerely. Damn it all, Hana, stop being so radiant. I don't have to keep wearing sunglasses throughout this review. With that, Homare gave her some figure skating 101, including some jumping lessons after Hana made this face.
And stop staring at me with them big old eyes!
She showed off some of the basics, and in doing so, was reminded of her early days practicing the sport. With that, the chapter ends with Homare reconnecting with her early days and linking it to her future. Following this, we get a chapter featuring the trio interning at a pet store. This was all set up by Hana's mother as a sort of extension of the job training they were doing in the show proper. They look forward to working with all of the cute little critters like the kitties, the reptiles, the Wolverine clones. Okay, that face works on a teddy bear, but not so much on a dog. Speaking of which, another pooch was scaring off the customers. He was one of the older dogs and was Iggy from JoJo's Bizarre Adventure. Oh, be careful, Hana. You think your hair looks bad now, he can make it look a lot worse. And sure enough, the bulldog stand user proves to be more than a match for Curiel. But yeah, this dog was in a constant foul mood because he had been separated from his mother at a young age. And now that he had put on a few years and was scaring away customers, the store was considering putting him into the big sleep.
The big sleep. The big sleep! The big sleep! The big sleep!
So of course, Hana being Hana did everything she could to make Iggy look a little more presentable for adoption, and he did lighten up by the end of the day. Later, Hana suggested they upload a cute picture of Iggy onto an SNS to spread word about him. Homare agreed, but when they tried to take a picture of him, he likely caught on to what they were doing and started throwing a tantrum. For him, he didn't want to have to leave the only place he recognized as his home, the only place where he could have a connection with his mother. Because of this, the staff were considering breaking out the tranquilizers, but Hana, despite the angry bulldog's bites, just decided to perform the namesake of her team. With that and some encouraging words from the Precure of Energy, Iggy calmed down and was soon adopted into a happy new family. Thus, the chapter ended with the girls declaring to Mrs. Nono that it was a rewarding experience and that they were looking forward to more in the future. The final chapter we'll cover for today focuses on Hugtto. Harry had left her in the care of Hana after leaving to contract some new inventory for his shop. Gee, realistic depictions of how businesses operate. What a novel concept for this franchise. Outside of the manga. Needless to say, taking care of the magical MacGuffin baby was not something Hana could handle alone, so she called in some reinforcements. They each tried to cheer her up with stuff they liked. So obviously nothing worked, especially with Homare, who I think just wanted to add to her Instagram. Granted, a face like that is very memeable. However, Hugtto wasn't in the mood to give a boost to Homare's followers, leading to some predictable results. It's not the worst case of the terrible twos I've ever seen. Jim Henson, you and your traumatizing nightmare fuel will never be forgotten. Thus, it was up to Google-sensei to make his second big save of this manga. Seriously, he's the MVP of this book.
こんな時は Google-sensei に聞いてみましょう。
Anyway, they realized they just needed to let the toddler do her own thing. Hana remembered that she had an interest in drawing, so she gave her some crayons. It was at this point that the Precure realized that rather than forcing their own interest onto the developing mind, they really should have just focused on what Hugtto was interested in. Thus, they encouraged her to continue what she was doing, though they also had her clean up a little, which thanks to her OP psychic abilities made a breeze. Or would have if she hadn't slipped up a little. Still, since the lesson of this chapter is how to help a young mind develop, Hana encouraged her and said it was alright to make mistakes every so often. And to improve her motor skills, they gave her a few more activities to do, which happened to double as prep for something else. The results of which were seen the next day when Harry returned and they threw him a little party. And thus, the chapter ended with Hugtto giving him a drawing she made of him, and the Precure declaring that they would continue to oversee the development of their little friend. And that was the first 5 chapters of the Hugtto Precure manga. Anyone else want to petition for the Kamikitas to join the writing staff? Across the first 3 chapters of this manga, we saw aspects of the characters that, as of the time of writing this review, have kind of been forgotten. Hana's struggles towards adulthood, Homare's journey to reignite her passion for figure skating, and while not exactly an essential part of her character, it is cute seeing Saya being a total tech junkie. Again, not to say that I'm necessarily against the anime's current direction, as I do think the conflict with Kuryasu is interesting, and they do need to focus more on that and the action, which yeah, unfortunately, the twins can't draw good fight scenes outside of Han vs Iggy. That's up there with Jotaro vs Dio. But yeah, they're obviously more at home drawing slice of life stories than superhero action. That said, they do kind of make up for it by adding more humanizing moments to their writing, which is probably best exemplified in the 4th chapter. While certainly not a world-ending threat by any means, seeing the Precure help a little bulldog does show that they aren't above connecting with and saving the smallest of lives. Same can kind of be said for the Hugtto chapter, though there they needed to learn how to sit down and figure out what the toddler wanted to do, mostly by visual cues. And that's probably the big mission statement of the Hugtto team that both the anime and the manga try to get across, teaching the many ways we can bond with others and form meaningful connections. We can sometimes forget the importance of these values either because we're too caught up with our personal goals or beliefs. And that's fine, as long as we remain amiable, then we can eventually all start to walk down the same path towards the future. Oh hi, Reika. But yeah, all around good touching little tales that could easily fit into the show's canon, since unlike with the Kira manga, it doesn't really change around any of the events. At this manga's current rate, the future of the Precure continues to look bright. Still, having blazed through 4 chapters, I can't help but feel like we're forgetting something. I'm sure I'll remember by next time. And until then, though, farewell for now, my friends, and... Oh, hi Iggy, what's up? Why are you looking at me like that? Specifically my head. Good dog. Good dog. Bad dog! Bad dog!